Senator Klein, I do have a couple of basic questions. Let me start by one that may be just too obvious. This is labeled as a technical correction. I don't view it that way. I'm not sure that many others would. But let me start by asking, in light of the fact that this is tied to the education budget, which you advanced and was passed, the governor has now vetoed that and made it very clear that he was going to do that, and he's followed through with doing that. So why would we be moving ahead with a bill that's a technical correction to something that's already been vetoed?
Well, one of the agreements we were able to obtain with the Assembly and the Senate and the governor is that if money was reduced, and of course this is going to be based on the restorations that were made in the education budget we passed jointly with the Assembly earlier in the week, is that the money for non-Big Five school districts, those school districts that already passed their budget, that the money would be mandated for non-high-need school districts to be used to lower the tax levy directly for property tax relief.
But would Senator Klein continue?
Senator Klein, we continue to yield.
Happy to yield.
Senator Klein.
Who came up with the original plan that would have 3 tiers, one for low need, one for average need, one for high need? I mean, if you agreed initially that that's what should be done, why was that not in the first bill that we voted on the other day?
It was negotiated on later, that it was a much better idea, that being that school districts around the state that passed their budgets in May, I assume they tightened their belts. Most of the budgets in the state of New York, as you know, passed. It would make no sense to now turn around and give over that money. And by the way, under present law, if we gave that money over to them after they passed their budgets, they would be required to keep it in a reserve fund. We thought it would be much more beneficial to taxpayers around the state of New York, instead of that money gaining dust in a fund for over a year, to be used now to lower the tax levy on the budget that was just passed by school districts around the state, thus giving taxpayers the ability to see tax savings even before their tax bill comes in October.
Mr. President, Senator Klein, continue to yield.
Senator Klein, do you continue to yield?
I'd be happy to yield.
Senator Klein, I don't agree. Under present law, if we did nothing, school districts basically could have 3 options. One, if they had put in a dry appropriation, assuming that they might get more state aid, it could be so allocated as a result of the budget passing. The second option is that the money could be put into reserve fund up to 4%, as you know, but there's also an option to reduce the property tax levy under existing law. So there's really 3 options available to school districts if we do nothing. But let me go back, because I want to be clear as we move ahead what direction we're taking. You mentioned that this was negotiated with the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor. So is it a fair representation that at least this portion of the education budget is agreed to by the governor?
I would hope so.
Can I get a clarity? Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Thank you.
As you know, Senator Flanagan, things are rather fluid and things change around here from day to day.
Certainly appreciate that. Thank you, Senator Klein. Mr. President, on the bill.
Senator Flanagan, on the bill.
The problem I have with this legislation is that it's reflective of some of the issues that we're dealing with in relation to the budget as a whole, and in particular as it focuses on education. Now, we had another opportunity today to deal with a bill by Senator Stewart Cousins to provide $4 million to Yonkers. The other day, we did a bill to Yonkers for about $5 million. Now we're doing a technical correction to the budget for how we're going to distribute money to the school districts. We have another bill that will be coming up that will be a reimbursement to private and parochial schools. It's a piecemeal approach that frankly just doesn't work. It's bad public policy. It's not the way we should be doing things. But I want to go through very quickly what this sets up. And it sets up an adversarial system, in my opinion, and one that is not beneficial to the property taxpayers, because if we are going to have a uniform standard, that's what it should be. It should be uniform. Under the original bill that you passed and that we as the Senate Republicans voted against, you created a three-tiered system. A high-needs district could get whatever extra money and use it however they want. Then the average need district would have to use 50% for property tax relief, and they could use the other 50% however they want. Then, of course, your low needs district would have to operate under current law, which was just described. Now, and by the way, got this information from the State Education Department. Low needs districts, there are 132 of them in the state. Average needs, 335, and high needs, 207. Now, with this technical correction, which is apparently supported by the governor, you've taken a bad situation and made it slightly better. It's not good, because now we have competition, and you could literally have a situation where you will have neighboring districts. One person could live in one block, be in one school district, and another person could live right across the street and be treated differently, because your high-needs districts are going to have a lot more flexibility. They could now turn around and say, we got extra money from the state of New York, we're going to reinstitute programs. We're going to bring back teachers. We're going to add back. And you could have a district right next door that simply is not going to have that option. I believe the prudent way to have done this would to have been to create a uniform system so that if the real goal is property tax relief, that everybody should have to operate under the same standard. And frankly, doing it under existing law probably would have been the best course of action, because they could have used that to reduce the property tax levy. So this is not going to help a number of school districts across the state of New York the way you think it is. And it's going to be difficult for certain members to go back and to explain to one district versus another that you're now being treated differently from your neighbor. Again, this is not the way we should be approaching things. It's going to create more problems. It's going to raise more questions. And I guess fundamentally we could ask the question, if the whole veto issue has now rendered some of this moot, why are we actually doing this? Mr. President, I plan on voting no, and I would encourage my colleagues to vote no as well.